I hadn't missed a Sunday dinner in over 10 years. Not once. Not during trial season, not during the week I pulled 3 all-nighters to draft a motion for summary judgment, not even the Sunday after my appendix was removed. My mother, Rosa, always said I was the dependable one. The daughter who remembered birthdays, who brought dessert, who showed up with a smile no matter how tired I was. That night, I drove the 40 minutes from my condo in downtown San Diego to my parents' place in Chula Vista. In the passenger seat sat a dish of homemade tamales, still warm beneath the towel I'd folded over them. My abuela's recipe, pork with red chili steamed until the masa nearly melted. The kind my father, Manuel, liked best. I could almost hear his voice calling out when he opened the foil. The scent of spice and tradition filled my car, grounding me like it always did. I pulled into the street, careful not to park too close to the driveway. That spot was always for Julian, my older brother, the golden son. Even though I was the one who had paid for their new water heater last year, the rules of family positioning hadn't changed. I stepped out into the cooling dusk. The porch light was on, casting its usual yellow glow on the steps. I'd taken those steps thousands of times. I knew them like muscle memory. Left foot, right foot, pause before the third step. It creaked. I was reaching for the screen door when I heard my name. Camilla will handle it. She always does. It was my father's voice. Calm, certain. I froze, my hand hovering just inches from the door. Inside, the voices bounced off the kitchen tiles. My mother's voice followed, strained. But $70,000? Julian, are you serious? It doesn't matter how, Julian snapped. What matters is it needs to be covered before the auditor digs deeper. You said you'd help. We will, Manuel replied. Camilla just made senior counsel. She's got to be clearing what, $250 now? The tamales in my hands didn't shift, but something inside me did. Julian scoffed. She can spare it. She doesn't have kids, no husband. What's she spending it on, that condo with the view? Rosa murmured, she works so hard. Exactly, Julian cut in. She always helps. Remember when she paid for your dental surgery? No questions. Or when she sent me $25,000 for the restaurant loan? She never even brought it up again. There was a pause, a long one. Start with something small, Manuel said. Say it's for the roof, then the medical stuff. Cry if you have to. She'll say yes, Julian said. She always does. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I stood there on that porch, holding warmth in my hands, listening to the chill settle into my bones. They weren't waiting for me. They were waiting for my wallet. And for the first time in 10 years, I didn't walk through the door. I backed away from the porch, careful not to let the third step creak. The tamales felt heavier now, like they'd absorbed every word I wasn't supposed to hear. My fingers were slick with sweat. The dish nearly slipped. I caught it just in time. The sky had darkened. Somewhere in the neighborhood, someone was barbecuing. The sound of laughter drifted from a backyard. I walked toward my car like a ghost. Quiet, weightless, unreal. I opened the door, set the tamales down gently on the passenger seat, and just sat there. The scent of spice no longer felt like home. It felt like betrayal wrapped in foil. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A message from my mom. Where are you, mija? We're about to eat. I stared at the screen. My thumbs hovered. Then I typed, got pulled into a last-minute emergency filing. Sorry. We'll call you later. 3 dots appeared. Then her reply, oh no, okay, we need to talk soon, it's important. I didn't answer. I knew what she was going to say. The roof, then the rest. All of it exactly as they planned. I turned the engine on, then off again. I wasn't ready to go home. I wasn't ready to fall apart. I just needed to move. I drove through city streets I barely registered, past strip malls and quiet churches, down familiar roads that now felt foreign. I kept thinking of all the times I'd stepped up without hesitation. When I wired Julian $10,000 after his urgent business tax issue. When I paid for Rosa's knee procedure because insurance only covered part of it. When I used my first year-end bonus to cover 3 months of their mortgage during a tight season. I'd called it love, loyalty, family. But what if it was just habit? What if every thank you was code for, you'll do it again? What if they didn't see me as generous, but as available? I parked in the underground garage of my building, engine ticking as it cooled. The tamales sat cold beside me. I didn't take them upstairs. Inside my apartment, I left the lights off and walked to the window. My condo overlooked the water, a view I had worked for, sacrificed sleep for, fought tooth and nail to earn. I stood there in the dimness, watching headlights glide past below, and felt something sharp settle inside me. Not rage, not sadness, not yet. Just clarity. They weren't going to ask me. They were going to expect me. And I wasn't going to say yes this time. I woke before the sun. No alarm, no dreams, just that strange electric stillness before a storm. My body moved on instinct, habit formed from years of early hearings and court prep. But today I didn't make coffee. I didn't check my calendar. Instead, I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and pulled up every account I had. Checking, savings, retirement, investment. I transferred everything. Not just moved it, relocated it. To new banks, institutions my parents didn't know, had never asked about. I opened an international savings account too, just in case. Then I called every provider I'd ever given shared access to. Utilities, the old emergency contact forms from law school, even a lingering joint account from when I helped Julian repair his credit years ago. Gone. Closed, frozen. Two-factor authentication. New passwords, new security questions. Mother's maiden name? Not anymore. I made up answers now. Things no one could guess. My phone buzzed over and over. Missed calls, voicemails I didn't listen to. Julian, Mom, Dad. I kept going. By mid-morning, I was compiling every transaction I could remember. Every transfer, every wire, every check I'd ever written them. I found old emails, bank confirmations, Venmo screenshots, scribbled Post-its with dates and reasons. $6,000. Julian's car accident, $14,500. Dental surgery for Rosa, $9,000. Mortgage catch-up, November, $25,000. Restaurant investment, never returned. The total made my stomach flip. I had been funding the people who were scheming behind my back, and I had the receipts. Around 10:30, I sent a message to Naomi, the managing partner at my firm. Subject line, personal, urgent, request for 15 mins today. She replied in under 5. Come by my office at noon. Naomi wasn't warm. She wasn't maternal, but she was brilliant. She had survived 4 recessions, 2 buyouts, and a marriage she never talked about. When I walked into her corner office with my spine straight and a fire behind my ribs, she didn't offer a greeting. She just looked up and said, "What's going on?" I told her everything. From the porch, to the cold tamales, to the fraud, to the transfer of my entire financial life. She didn't interrupt. Just sat back, fingers steepled, watching me like a chessboard was unfolding in real time. When I finished, she nodded slowly. "You're handling this like an attorney? That's good. Now, do you want legal advice or war strategy?" "Both," I said. She smiled for the first time. "Then let's get to work." That afternoon, I turned my phone back on. I don't know why. Maybe part of me still wanted to hear it from him. Some trace of guilt, some sign of shame. Julian's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice, then answered. "Camilla," he said, breathless. "Thank God. I've been calling—" "I know," I said flatly. There was a pause. Listen, we should talk, as a family." "No," I said. "Let's talk as what we actually are. You and me. The person who lied and the person you planned to steal from." "Whoa, that's not fair." "Not fair?" I repeated, almost laughing. "You were going to let me unknowingly cover the fallout of your crime, and you coached them on how to manipulate me. Cry if you have to. That's what you said, right?" His voice rose, defensive. "I was desperate. You don't get it. I could go to prison." "You should have thought of that before you falsified documents, before you filed fake deeds, before you decided your little sister's bank account was your safety net." "I didn't think it would get this far." "No, you thought I wouldn't find out." Silence crackled through the line. Then a weak attempt. Look, you've always been the strong one, Camilla. You don't understand what it's like to fail. I closed my eyes, the bitterness rising fast. No, Julian, I do understand failure. I failed myself again and again by letting you take from me. Because I thought you'd stop. I thought one day you'd say thank you and actually mean it, but you didn't. You won't. Camilla, please. I hung up. The phone rang again seconds later, but I ignored it. I didn't want apologies. I wanted space. At 5:17 p.m., Rosa showed up at my office. She didn't call first, didn't check in. She simply walked past security like she had every right to be there and caught me by the elevator as I returned from a deposition. Camila, she said breathlessly, mascara smudged, her voice breaking. Mija, please. I didn't move. I didn't hug her. We need to talk, she whispered. We are, I said, right here. She glanced around. Not in the lobby. Not like this. Why not? I asked, voice even. You said I don't say no to family. Let's test that out. She looked stunned. Julian is in trouble, she said. He made mistakes, but he's your brother. No, he's your son and your problem. We don't have the money, Camilla. You never did. You just had me. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. How can you be so cold? She whispered, tears gathering. This isn't like you. I looked at her for a long time. You're right, I said softly. The old me would have written the check already. But the old me died on your porch. Her face crumpled. I didn't wait to see what came next. I walked away, heels clicking against the marble floor, the sound sharp and certain. 2 days passed without another word. No calls, no drop-ins, no weepy voicemails, just silence. For a brief moment, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe Rosa had gone home, told Julian I wouldn't budge, and they'd accepted it. I should have known better. Friday afternoon, just as I was packing up my briefcase, our receptionist called my extension. Camilla, there's someone here from legal downstairs. Says he has documents for you. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Send him up. He was young, nervous, couldn't look me in the eye. He handed over a manila envelope with my name scribbled across the front and mumbled, "Have a good day," before disappearing. I opened it slowly, with the surreal calm of someone watching a movie about their own life. Inside, a formal complaint. My parents were suing me. They claimed the money I had given them over the years was never a gift, but a series of personal loans. And now, by abruptly cutting ties, I had caused them emotional distress and financial instability. It was so absurd I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that lifts weight off your shoulders. The kind that falls out when you're too stunned to scream. They weren't just trying to guilt me, they were trying to punish me. I closed the envelope and called Eliana Moreno, an old friend from law school and one of the sharpest civil defense attorneys I knew. I forwarded the documents to her within minutes. She called me back in 10. They have nothing, Camila. No contracts, no emails, no repayment agreements. This is textbook harassment. They're bluffing, hoping you'll fold. Can we counter? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. We could. Emotional damages, defamation, retaliatory suit. They're exposed now. I looked around my office. The framed degrees, the stack of briefs, the worn-in chair by the window. This life I had built, brick by brick, while they saw me as a bottomless bank account. But I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. I don't want their money, I said. I want peace. Then we'll shut it down. Swift and clean. I hung up and stared at the ceiling for a long time. They were willing to lie in court. Twist history, rewrite reality, just to get one more dollar. That night I started packing, not just files or sweaters. I started packing for New York. For a new life where no one would ever again see me as an open tab. Sunday morning came with gray skies and the low hum of city traffic. I was boxing up my books when my phone buzzed. Again. Unknown number. I hesitated. Then out of reflex or curiosity, I answered. Camilla. Julian's voice cracked through the line. Please, I'm begging you. You can't just let this happen. Let what happen? I said evenly, taping up a box. Let you face consequences for your crimes? I could go to prison. You should have considered that before committing real estate fraud, before forging signatures, before coaching our parents on how to lie to me. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I cut in. You were scared, so you looked for a way out. And you chose me, because you thought I wouldn't fight back. He was silent for a moment, then tried again. I'm your brother. You'd really let your brother go to jail over money? I set the tape roll down slowly. This isn't about money, Julian. It's about trust, about being used. You took my loyalty and twisted it into obligation. He was quiet, then softer. I didn't mean to hurt you. No, you just didn't care if you did. His voice broke. Camila, I'm scared. I swallowed the ache in my chest. You're going to have to figure that out without me. Then I hung up. I didn't wait for him to call back. I blocked the number. The next few minutes were a blur of silent motion. My heart raced, but I kept packing. Winter coats, photo frames, case notes from old clients. No more calls came. No more texts. Maybe they'd finally gotten the message. Or maybe they were just regrouping. I didn't care anymore. The paperwork for the transfer to New York had already been finalized. Naomi had made everything seamless. Office space, relocation support, even a short-term apartment lease in the East Village. I would be gone in 72 hours. That night, I sat in my now half-empty living room, legs tucked under me on the couch, a warm blanket pulled over my lap. Outside, the city lights shimmered across the bay like promises I hadn't dared believe in before. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad anymore. I was done. Truly, finally done. The final weekend in San Diego felt like a dream I'd already stepped out of. I spent most of it alone, moving from room to room with open boxes and a strange sense of calm. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't running. I was choosing, carefully, what parts of my life would come with me, and which would stay behind like ashes. In my bedroom closet, I found a small velvet box tucked behind a pile of scarves. Inside was the charm bracelet Rosa had given me for law school graduation. Each charm had a meaning: a gavel for justice, a heart for family, a house for home. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the box and placed it in the donation pile. In the kitchen, I pulled open a drawer I hadn't touched in months. Beneath old takeout menus and a faded grocery list was a card, unopened. I recognized the handwriting immediately. To Mom and Dad, with love. From your daughter, partner at last. I had written it the day I made senior counsel, bought a gold embossed card, poured my heart into it, then handed it over with the bottle of champagne I'd paid for and the bill for the dinner they couldn't afford, but still attended like honored guests. They never opened it. I stood for a long time in that quiet kitchen, card in hand, eyes burning, not from tears, but from clarity. Then I dropped it into the trash beside the charm bracelet. In the hallway, I pulled down a frame of our last Christmas photo. I remembered how I'd set the camera timer, rushed into place, still holding a pie dish, and smiled like someone who thought love could be earned with enough casseroles and calendar reminders. I slipped the photo out, folded it once, and set the frame aside. That night, I cooked one last meal in the apartment, nothing elaborate, just pasta and a little red wine. I ate by the window. Lights low, the city stretching out below me like a new beginning. At midnight, my phone buzzed again. A new number. But I didn't need to guess. Camila, I'm sorry. Not for needing help, but for how we planned to get it. You didn't deserve that. You deserved better. I hope someday you can forgive us. I read it twice, then typed slowly. I hope someday you can deserve forgiveness. I hit send, then I powered off my phone. Not silent mode, not ignore, off, truly off, just like everything that had come before. 6 months later, the sky above Manhattan was shifting, soft silver giving way to early spring light. I stood by the window of my East Village apartment, coffee in hand, watching the East River shimmer like something alive. The city didn't care who I had been. It only cared who I was willing to become. My mornings were quieter now. No texts begging for help. No calls dripping with guilt. Just the rhythm of a life I chose on my own terms. Work was demanding, but fulfilling. The cases were tougher, the stakes higher. And yet, I had never felt more seen. My colleagues respected me not just for what I could deliver, but for who I was. Deliberate, driven, whole. On quiet Sundays, I still cooked. Not tamales, not for anyone else. Just for me. That ritual stayed, not because it reminded me of them, but because it reminded me of her. The woman I used to be. The one who showed up to every dinner with her hands full and her heart open, thinking if she gave enough, tried hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, maybe, just maybe, they'd love her the way she loved them. She was gone now. In her place stood someone different. Someone who knew that love without respect is just debt dressed up in affection. That family who expects you to bleed for them without question is not family. They're users wearing familiar faces. A week ago, Eliana emailed me the update. Julian had been sentenced. 18 months in federal prison for real estate title fraud, document falsification, and attempted asset concealment. My parents sold their house to cover his legal costs. Most of it went to fines and penalties. They're now living with my mother's cousin in Kissimmee, Florida. The last trace of the life I used to orbit vanished with barely a sound, and I felt nothing. No anger, no joy, just a quiet, startling peace. I walked into my kitchen that afternoon and opened the highest cabinet. Behind a box of old cookbooks was the last relic, the lasagna dish, still clean, still whole. The one I had carried that night like it meant something, like it was enough. I turned it in my hands, ran a thumb along its smooth edge, then I dropped it into the trash. The sound it made wasn't loud, but it was final. At the end of the day, I didn't leave to punish them. I left to protect what was left of me. If you've ever stood outside a door with something warm in your hands and hope in your chest, only to hear the truth that shattered you, I see you. You don't owe anyone an apology for choosing yourself. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you'll ever do.